Mark chapter 5 is the story of a father who was in a desperate situation. His daughter was dying, and in his desperation, he reached out to Jesus to save his daughter from death. But in the process of entreating Jesus to come, the Bible reports that the man's daughter died. But instead of giving up, Jesus turned to the man and he said, "Don't be afraid, only believe." And Jesus went to the place where she had died. And when he came in, he said to them, "Why all the wailing? Why all the commotion? The child is not dead, but asleep." The King James Version uses the language of Shakespeare. Jesus asked, "Why make ye this ado?" According to Jesus, this was indeed much ado about nothing. You see, from the perspective of Jesus, death was nothing. Everyone else was upset. They were hired mourners who were there to put on display the grief of the family for everyone to see. And Jesus put them all out. I wonder if sometimes we don't enjoy our grief a little too much, if we don't enjoy the drama of our circumstance a little too much. You see, Jesus desires that from our grief we would experience joy, and this can only happen if we take on the perspective of heaven. Philosopher William James, in his classic work, The Variety of Religious Experience, observes the sanest and the best of us are one clay with lunatics and prison inmates, and death finally runs the most robust of us down. All of our morality appears but as a plaster hiding a sore that it can never cure, and all of our well-doing is as the hollowest substitute for that well-being that our lives ought to be grounded in, but alas, are not. How often do we attempt to prolong our grief, our drama, as a mask of identity that we assume in place of the God-given identity of righteousness in Christ? And like the hired mourners, we frolic in our feelings, or we dive deeply into our well-doing for a substitute for that well-being that we can only experience in Jesus Christ. Well, the good news of the gospel is that Jesus still wakes up the dead. He takes us by the hand, He calls us by name, and awakens us from the shallow sleep of our existence into the glorious, everlasting kingdom of Christ. And that is the story of this Easter season. Jesus defeated death. He overcame death, hell, and the grave. And because He did, you and I can live as well.